back to On the Flip Side. My name is Adam Shawwalker, your host, and today we're going to be checking out this new Alex Cameron record, Oxy Music. The fourth studio album from Australian-based pop artist Alex Cameron features 9 tracks that all maintain an artistic trajectory that he as an artist has been building over the past few years. I would almost say that this album feels more mature with the exception of the lyrics, which are witty, thoughtful, and rude to a great effect. But yeah, sonically this whole album is a lot more focused and tentative in their approach to this alternative pop sound. It's a comfortable evolution in style that feels natural and at most points lands pretty well. I'd really call the sound of this album intoxicated. There's a haze on every one of these songs that seems to fit right in there with the motif of Oxy Music, a soft, sprawled out, lazy but calculated display of creativity. The first track, Best Life, seems to wrangle with a few themes. It seems to be like a song that holds a bit of a deep resentment for social media with a very tongue-in-cheek set of lyrics that kind of mirror overdone internet speak. It's like Alex has dialed in this exact set of phrases that feel like they've been used to death online to the point that they're identifiable without the direct context of the internet. It's pretty cleverly done, and while I find the actual track to be a little bit of a sleeper, it's still a pretty decent introduction track for this album. Sarah Joe seems like another jab into social media and false info in general. There's tons of references in this track to pulling the curtains and just kind of telling people like blatant misinformation, like who told my brother that his kids are gonna die from this vaccine. But Alex has also blended it with other lines like who told my father that he doesn't have to pay for counseling. So there's clearly a bit more to this song than just like a calculated battle with misinformation. In fact, I feel like a lot of this track is a blatant scream into the void of the like general frustrations with everyone being connected to the internet. Like sure, you can have causes or agendas, but it seems like this is kind of just a general plea to like be left alone. As for the rest of the track, it's a slow, swinging song that has a great beat and some really smooth saxophone. Prescription Refill is part Come On Eileen pop banger and part bastardized love ballad. The whole track kind of seems like a song in tribute to either prescription drugs in a literal sense or like maybe a person that they're trying to compare to drugs. Alex kind of approaches the song interchangeably, like this song could be about either and both of those things. The whole track is a pretty good song though overall, and it's very calm and a nice poppy track overall. I think the highlight though mostly is the lyrics for this one. Hold the Line is a song that is very much about drug abuse. It just kind of seems to be about any drug that you can snort. Like lyrically, it's kind of a cocaine song or maybe like a general painkiller song or at some points even like a heroin track. But regardless, Alex paints a very clear picture of an intensely drug-addled mind. I do like that there's an interaction as part of the song that's like Alex and his parents who tell him to stay away from drugs even though they feel really good. And it's kind of like a bit of a wink, like a little bit of a nudge, like, hey, don't do that shit. Like, you know I did, but you shouldn't. It's kind of subtle, but I think it's a good touch. The general lyricism on this track is just really good, and I think that combined with the beat make this one of the better tracks on the album. Breakdown is one of the most washed out, reverb-heavy tracks on this album. The vibe of this song is like a pastel swim in a Miami pool while fully clothed and completely trashed. I think at this point in the album, I kind of realized that this feels like some of these lyrics really go hand in hand with like a singer-songwriter style. Like I would bet if you had like Josh Tillman sing these songs, they would absolutely pass as like Father John Misty tracks. The self-loathing, the general whimsicalness and normalcy of these incredibly dark situations go right in hand with that style of sound. I think Alex Cameron really nails it on this track for that kind of style. K-Hole is a great snide track about honesty and coping with drugs. There's some parts in this song that are trying to communicate that Alex is trying to get his shit together, but he's also struggling with substance abuse, and as a result pushes away this person and falls into a literal K-hole. A K-hole referring to ketamine if you weren't privy to that kind of vocabulary, which you are now. So Alex is trying to prove himself and to be this person and to be better to this person and to prove that he is stable and working on himself, but till he can gain that confidence, there's a bit of like this arm's distance. It's kind of a touching song in a way because there's this like consideration of the communication that, you know, he is trying to make, but it's still like pretty fucked up regardless. It's a great track. Dead Eyes is a song that I think lyrically starts to lose me. There's just kind of like this song doesn't really seem to know what it wants to be. It's like a ballad, but there's really not much to go on here. Like the song is very abstract, other than some very general themes of like weariness. I do like the calmness and the slow emotive delivery on this song, but it just doesn't really seem to have much of any anything to say, which I guess is okay, but it's pretty unexpected after the rest of these tracks that are all very lyrically forward-thinking. Cancel Culture is kind of a complete switch of tone for this album. The lyric work is still very on par for the rest of Alex Cameron's work, but the beat is really far removed from the other songs on this album, though I do think it can still kind of fit with this overall dazed sound and like intoxicated motif. I do also find that the feature from Lloyd Vines is very grating. It does almost feel like they have him on this track to get like a bit of an N-word pass for this song, which I know probably wasn't the intent, but it does seem silly that they would have to like even venture into this territory at all considering the subject of this song. And as far as the beat goes, it's pretty solid, but it still seems like way out of left field, and honestly I kind of just wish that this track had been like released as like a single at some point in the last year, because thematically it just doesn't really fit all that well with the rest of the record. And I don't even really disagree with the message here or anything, it just doesn't seem like the right time frame for this to make sense, or like the right context. Like there's some tact that is clearly missing here, and it's just like a really weird thing to say at this point of this album. The final track, also the title track of the album, Oxy Music, is a lot closer in tone to the last song than the rest of this album, though I still think it has a bit more of a place on this album just because of the subject matter. I do like the silly lyricism here, which is even more emboldened by the feature Jason Williamson from Sleaford Mods, which is really a very out there choice for a feature. And personally, I actually really love Sleaford Mods, but the choice is incredibly ballsy because Williamson has such a specific sound and use that is incredibly hard to utilize, but amazingly enough, it actually lands pretty well here despite a few kind of half awkward singing segments that are still pretty good overall. I think the song as a whole is pretty cool. I think it's a little bit long, which kind of feels odd for this album, but you know, I'll take it. I do find the synths a bit grating, but I think that's intentional, like kind of in like a Tim and Eric sports style way. So this whole album feels just kind of top heavy in general. I mean, like 70% of this album is an absolute heater. Like most of these songs range from solid tracks to excellent songs, but right at like Dead Eyes, things just kind of take a dip and they don't really recover very well. And despite the slight recovery of the title track Oxy Music, it isn't really enough to fix the massive diversion this album takes right at the end. I did enjoy most of this album though. I thought that the risks that were taken here were calculated, but I think that it was a wrong move to put those risks right at the end of the record that kind of just ends up leaving you with a bit of a sour taste in the mouth, and frankly just kind of leaves me scratching my head. And despite that odd musical tangent, I still think that the stronger tracks on this album carry a lot of weight. Oxy Music is a solid 7. Thank you all so much for watching. Let me know what you thought of the album in the comments below, and if you liked this video, leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel. It helps out a ton. And if you want to support the channel even more, check out my Instagram and my Reverb store where you can buy some of my old music gear like guitars and pedals and cool stuff like that. Thank you all so much again. We'll see you on the flip side.